Shalum, Shalum, and welcome to the channel. If you're tuning in for the first time, my name is Symmanayah. This series, Letter and Spirit, is to highlight, motivate, and encourage you to realize that if we trust the scriptures, or what's commonly known as the Bible, the letter by itself, we will stumble and fall. We must learn that we should pray as we read and study. Together, reading and prayer, we will discover the life in the scriptures and what it is that the Almighty Father is saying to us to build us up to better worship and serve Him. In this segment of Letter and Spirit, I want to talk about lead and follow. Lead and follow. For many of us have heard people say, I don't follow nobody. Or you hear people saying, I'm not a leader. But they spend countless hours projecting what they believe and seeking to influence one another. Or should I say, seek to influence others. And they say, I'm not a leader. But yet their actions contradict what they're saying. Some think that's cute or come across as being humble. But if you are one who speak much, who interact much, who talk much about Scripture, and one could conclude that you are outspoken, then yes, you're participating in leading. Lead and follow. Are we aware that each of us fit this subject? In other words, each day we contribute actions that can be described as taking lead. Our actions could be a result of following. In other words, they may have been influenced by something we learned by another. So this lead and follow happens intermittently with each of us. Come, let us unpack this message. It may present some surprises to many. Lead and follow occurs when we either lead and, believe it or not, follow. Sometimes simultaneously. Keep in mind, there are those anointed by Abba Yahuah through His word, sent in Yahusha's name to lead. I submit to you that this does not mean that such individuals will be exempt from being tasked to follow at times. If a leader can't follow, where is he or she receiving their instructions? And if they say directly from the Spirit of the Almighty Father, where is the confirmation that they receive and demonstrate it so that we know indeed they're following His ways, the desires of the Almighty Father? Take a look at Ephesians 4, 1 through 3. Ephesians 4, 1 through 3 reads, I call upon you, therefore, the prisoner of the Master, to walk worthily of the calling with which you were called, with all humility and meekness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, being eager to guard the unity of the Spirit of the bond of peace. And he goes on to say, one body and one spirit. I'm in the 4th chapter of Ephesians, and I'm reading the eSword from the eSword version. One body and one spirit, as you also were called in one expectation of your calling. One master, one belief, one immersion, one almighty one and Father of us all, who is above all and through all and in you all. So let me tell you this, my brothers and sisters. Do you think we all are leading and not following? Do you think too many are following and not knowing when they should stand up and lead? Sometimes it's an interchangeable thing depending on the condition that we're facing. It goes on to say, but to each one of us favor was given according to the measure of the gift of Messiah. It is time to begin realizing, my brothers and sisters, the fullness of who we are and what is expected to build unity. There are some actions that are interchangeable. Sometimes we lead, sometimes we follow. Are there pastors, bishops, deacons? Are there captains, lieutenants, depending on the structure of an assembly or group? Sure it is, my brothers and sisters. And I can assure you, if we examine thoroughly, everyone is following and leading at some point in time. Even the leader sometimes secretly follows the teachings of another, one way or another. You see, the flesh war against the spirit, meaning that we will stumble. A teacher will even stumble. A leader will even stumble. And to come into correction, oftentimes they are following the discipline that has been laid out for them to come into correction. Yahusha, Yahusha, come with me, my brother, my sister. Let's take a look at 1 Corinthians 12, 5 through 7. 1 Corinthians 12, 5 through 7 reads, and I'm in the eSword version. There are different kinds of services, but the same master. There are different kinds of working, but it is the same Almighty One who is working all in all. And to each one is given the manifestation of the Spirit for profiting. And he goes on to say, verse 8 through 10, for to one is given a word of wisdom through the Spirit, to another a word of knowledge according to the same Spirit, and to another belief by the same Spirit, to another gifts of healing by the same Spirit, to another operations of power, and to another prophecy, and to another discerning of spirits, and to another kinds of tongues, and to another interpretation of tongues. And notice what you see here saying to another, to another. How many communities and fellowships have we attended where we saw the leader yield to someone that was being led by the Almighty Father to deliver a message, a prophecy, to demonstrate healing? Or do we see these days where all the shepherds, the leaders, and the pastors, they want to be the ones that's doing it all? They believe they are the ones that should be casting out demons, leading, and they follow no one. Such a one consider coming away from, if indeed the Almighty Father has not directed you to present the correction to that individual. The mighty hand of the Almighty Father, the discipline that is promised, will come. Let us be mindful of what side, whose side we take, as major corrections will come in these last days. You see, lead and follow will prove to be an intermittent function. Sure, some may do more leading than following. He goes on to say, but one and the same Spirit works all these, distributing each one individually as he intends. For as the body is one, has many members, but all the members of the body, being many, are one body. So also is the Messiah. That was 1 Corinthians 12, 11, and 12. Each member of the body at some point leads. There will be instances which include both short and long times where we will see living orders to lead. In other words, be continuous leading, continuous following. Intermittent mean for the moment, for the moments, for a period of time. It would be wise to understand when we take on a position to lead, there will be individuals who will be directed to follow. You see, we have the greedy among us. They think they're supposed to lead all the time, and never follow anybody. Be careful of such a one. What we may think does not always equal to what is right. Consider the example when the foot says to the hand, I am not part of the body. Does that make it so? No. Regardless of what the foot says, it's a part of the body. Let's take a look at what I'm talking about, my brothers and sisters. Come with me to 1 Corinthians 12, verse 14 through 16. 1 Corinthians 12, 14 through 16. It reads, for indeed the body is not one member, but many. If the foot says, because I am not the hand, I do not belong to the body, does it therefore not belong to the body? And if the ear says, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, does it therefore not belong to the body? You see, so sometimes, regardless of what we say, does not always make it right. Just because someone say, nah, I don't lead and I don't follow. As long as we have breath and pursue obedience, my brothers and sisters, there will be times when we will set that example and lead. It may come where we may receive a title, and it may not. What is important is that we receive the influence that drives us closer to the Almighty Father to better worship and obey Him. And in doing so, it contributes towards the body coming together. 1 Corinthians 12, 17, 18 say, if all the body was an eye, where would be the hearing? If all hearing, where would be the smelling? But now the Almighty One has set the members, each one of them, in the body, even as He please. You see, there are specific titles in the instructions of set-apart Yahushua, but each of us have an obligation that will place us in positions to lead, if but for a moment, if but only for a moment. How many realize that when we are tasked to lead, at any point it comes with responsibility? We're not supposed to just jump out there haphazardly. Every waking moment is a time for something beneficial in life, to life. Though there are times we think by saying, I don't want to lead anyone, this frees us from the responsibility or demonstrates humility. It's not about what you want or what I want. It's about what is ordered by the Almighty Father. It would be nice if we desire to obey and yield to what is ordered. But let us not make the mistake of thinking it's about the way we want to do things. If we search the scriptures throughout, especially the so-called Old Testament, you'll see many times when Yahushua wanted to do what they want to do, and it led to death. Be careful, O Yahushua. Be careful. This is a delicate subject. Let me continue. Stay with me. Let us take a tour of the following passages in Ecclesiastes 3rd chapter. While I read it, prayerfully seek to discern how lead and follow fits into these words. Ecclesiastes 3rd chapter verses 1 through 4 reads, for every matter there's an appointed time, even a time for every pursuit under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. And it goes on, 5th verse through the 8th. A time to throw away stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and a time to loose, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to sow, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for battle and a time for peace. Now, my brothers and sisters, as it is laid out, time and season for many things. So do you think we'll flow through not leading at all? Do you think we'll just flow through following? Are we exempt from the task that the Almighty Father gives us when he gives it to us? There are too many times we fail to realize those who just might be following our lead without us being aware. In other words, just by walking in obedience, there may be those unlearned, undiscerning, still on milk, even on meat, that just didn't know. We don't always tell each other, I learned this from you, I learned this from her, him or her. Nor are we ordered to always say that, but we are instructed sometimes to exhort one another, to encourage one another. It's okay to say, I got this from you, as the Spirit used you, as I witness you, walk in obedience. My brothers and sisters, lead and follow are not bad words, and they are not etched in stone by the titles alone. I invite you to look around when in any fellowship or group and see if you can spot someone exhibiting traits of another in that group. All too often, there are people who have adapted to traits and behaviors, even in their communication, based on how the leadership conducts the fellowship. Believe it or not, there are and will be individuals that take on behaviors of their leaders or those of major influence in that group. The group may begin to gel together, but not always correctly. We must examine all things. We must be mindful of all things, my brothers and sisters. We must weigh what the Almighty Father has to say about a matter. We must weigh how he brings to life the scriptures. We must study and pray daily. There are also those who have been seduced into believing if they wear a certain type of garment or aspire to speak in a certain way, this helps them fit in. Within most groups, we can recognize those who take charge and lead, whether knowingly or not. This message is designed to highlight that everyone leads and follows at some time in our daily walk. It is designed to bring to light how we should walk in wisdom and be careful how we conduct ourselves, keeping in mind that we may never know who's following us, who's watching us, who's learning from us. What responsibilities have we taken on? Sometimes we have a responsibility and we don't know it. Take a moment and visit James 3:1-2. It says, not many of you should become teachers, my brothers, knowing that we shall receive greater judgment. For we all stumble in many matters. If anyone does not stumble in word, he is a perfect man, able also to bridle the entire body. This chapter talks about the tongue. I invite you to visit it, read it, pray about it, understand the dynamics of how it is the power and might of the Spirit of the Almighty Father, which comes in Yahusha's name. Yahusha, when we say Yahusha, my brothers and sisters, it's acknowledging the plan of Yahuwah, that he manifests his word before us, that he sent his set-apart spirit in Yahusha's name. So when we say Yahusha, we're acknowledging that Abba Yahuwah presented his word before us to communicate with us, to talk to us, to guide us, to instruct us. And Yahusha is indeed the pathway to everlasting life. For he is Yahuwah. I submit to you, there are those who have taken on positions to lead just by functioning as teachers. In other words, they function, their actions place them in positions of leadership. Whether they say they're a leader, a moray, a teacher, a bishop, a captain, or any title or not, if their actions are influencing many, two or more can be considered many. They're leading. Many individuals fail to ask the teacher, who do they follow? For some reasons, we neglect to ask how any teacher arrived at their position of belief. In order for unity to come for set-apart Yahushua, we must begin to pay attention to when it is necessary to lead and follow. It is important to know how to be more focused to avoid falling into the blind leading the blind syndrome. That could be dangerous and will prove to be dangerous for those who fail to listen, who fail to discern what the Spirit of the Almighty Father has to say through those whom he chooses to lead. I invite you to begin having discussions regarding lead and follow. See how brothers and sisters feel about these words. Discover how much such words may mean more to some versus others. You see, there are those who take it for granted, just want to jump out there and lead, and don't know how to lead carefully. There are those who follow and want others to follow with them, but yet they don't know how to examine a matter, a situation. By discovering how to lead and follow will influence us differently. Our expectations are adjusted. Be prepared to see a change, my brothers and sisters, a change in how we look at the word lead and follow. It is time to start being mindful of details and processes, including those that involve lead and follow. The coming days will place more attention on those who are leading and following in a way in which is orchestrated by the Spirit of the Almighty Father to bind us together and bring us together in unity. Make no mistake, all too often we don't ask the question, how will it come to be? What is required? What do we need to release versus what do we need to hold on to? Rise up, O Yahushua, and realize balance will come to a set-apart nation like we've never seen before. That's all I have on this subject for now. I thank you. I ask that you have this discussion. Pray on the words lead and follow. How does it affect? What does it make you think about? Do the word balance and focus come into play when having such discussions? Pray on this subject, my brothers and sisters, for it is important. I thank you for your patience, your tolerance, and your pursuit of set-apartness. And I end by saying to you, my brother, my sister, my family, Shalum.